Welcome to the Manifestation Method. I'm your host, Ayelet Polonsky, therapist, coach, and Jewish neo-shaman. Here we blend the wisdom of psychology, spirituality, and Kabbalah to empower you with tools for living your most authentic life, filled with love, abundance, and healing. Through somatic, narrative, and hypnotherapy, I've developed the Manifestation Method to guide your soul's transformation and the realization of your true self. Let's rise together. To dive deeper into manifesting your most authentic life, visit ayeletpolonsky.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Manifestation Method. Today's episode, we are going to be uncovering our secret sauce to what the Manifestation Method is all about. What is this whole methodology that we've created to break down something that is usually perceived as super esoteric or otherworldly, and how do we actually break it down in steps that we can start implementing in our daily lives today? So, without further ado, let's jump into Manifestation 101, Manifestation Fundamentals.
And also too, this method is unique to the manifestation method. And we also like the manifestation method is something that goes beyond I guess I even just want to say like time and space. Like that sounds so woo-woo, but it really goes beyond socioeconomic background. It goes beyond like feel like your limiting beliefs too. And we're really here to help you grow with this method and in creating your dream life, no matter where you are at right now. You can start today by implementing these methods.
Totally. Okay, so let's jump in.
So Ayelet, what's like the overview steps that go into manifesting, and then we can go into a little bit more detail, the step-by-step process.
Totally. So we'll get into the steps, but I think for people who are just new to this channel and maybe new to manifestation, because I get this a lot where people are like, I've heard the word manifestation. It sounds cool, but I really don't understand what it means. Like, what is manifestation? So for those of you who are new to this work, welcome, because, once you're in, there's no turning back, as your life just starts to look epic and magical when you start implementing the methodology. But I would say manifestation is learning the spiritual science of taking your desires, taking your intentions, taking your goals, and actualizing them into your 3D reality. And when I say actualizing, I don't mean going out and hustling and working hard and putting your blood, sweat, and tears into every single moment of every day in order to achieve your goal, right? What I'm talking about is do less, manifest more. And when it comes to manifestation, I think people think that they have to put in the same amount of work as the next person in order to see to it that their desire manifests. But once you actually understand the methodology, you realize that it's really 80% mindset and your overall spiritual architecture and 20% action. The action is important, but what's even more important is the 80% mindset that you're holding, because your mind, your the way you're perceiving reality, the way you're perceiving what's possible is going to define what actually manifests for you. So what is manifestation? It's using your thoughts. It's learning how to attune your speech. It's learning how to attune your vibrational frequency, your energy body, in order to draw your desires down here into your 3D world.
And I yell at, we hear so much about vibrational frequency. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what that actually means. And also, there's a lot of confusion around how to even gauge where you are at in that frequency. Like, it seems like there's a lot of the time there's like low frequency or high frequency or good vibes or bad vibes, but it really is such a broad spectrum. And how can a person even assess where they are at in order to get started with manifesting their dreams?
Sure. Awesome question. So I would say when it comes to assessing our frequency, your emotions are your GPS. Your emotions are your GPS. So I'll often just pause and ask myself, like, how am I feeling right now? How am I feeling right now? Such a basic question, but how many of us actually stop and pause to check in? We're so outwardly focused, and it's just a conditioned response in the culture we grew up in, is to take our attention and focus it outwards on all the billboards and the advertising and the people and the to-dos and the hustle, right? But when we just stop and pause and look in and say, what am I feeling right now? And then take a moment to just check in with yourself. Like, is your heart racing? Are you feeling a little bit of anxiety? Right? Are you feeling at peace? Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling grateful?
Are you feeling numb?
Are you feeling numb? Right? And these
Mhm.
are all of these emotions exist on what's called the vibrational frequency scale of emotion. And emotion is just energy in motion. Emotion wants to move. And one of the things that we learn with this methodology is how to actually take blocked emotion, like fear that's stuck in the body, or anxiety that gets stuck in the body, or regret or grief that gets stuck in the body. And how do we process it in a way or alchemize it so that we're literally turning straw into gold? We're turning fear into faith. We're
Mhm.
turning doubt into unwavering confidence. We're turning
Mhm.
pain into pleasure. Right? And so that's what it means to really become attuned to your vibrational frequency. What are the emotions that I'm feeling right now? And
Mhm.
then learning how to work with those emotions to start moving them in and through and out of your system so that
And
you. Mhm.
Mhm. Also, too, these concepts, some of it can sound woo, but a lot of the time, spiritual concepts and scientific, evidence line up. And what's really cool about the age that we're living in right now is how science is backing these spiritual concepts. It's just they use a different language for it. And we're both quantum physics nerds. So, also, literally, we are all electrons and protons vibrating in space. Like our physical self is an illusion. And also too, something that's so crazy is NASA this past year was talking about how like our gravitational mass is getting lighter just at the paradigm that we're in right now, like the times that we're in, and them even being able to measure, like the mass of gravity, like we literally are getting lighter, like lighter beings. And that also comes with a lot of responsibility because it can feel like our world is more chaotic, than usual, or even just our emotional lives are chaotic. And I think something about vibration too, it's like sound vibration, right? You can't see it, but there's a resonance to it. When you, like, let's say you go to a sound bath or you listen to music that's really positive and or like working out at the gym and you're listening to like hardcore rap and it like really pumps you up. You can also think of that as how attuning to your emotions, because music is literally vibrations going through your ear, and our emotions and how we respond to life is also like a vibration reaction to
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
which sets you higher on the scale. What are some like key emotions that are lower on the vibrational frequency and higher on the vibrational frequency, and what are some tools that we can use to just start getting like raising our vibration?
Uh-huh. Okay, amazing. So some of the lowest vibrational frequency emotions would be powerlessness.
Wow.
I've seen charts where that's actually at the very bottom,
Mhm.
kind of alongside depression.
Mhm.
I think powerlessness is even lower than depression on the scale, but on the bottom of the scale, we have powerlessness, depression, grief, fear, control. Uh,
Mhm.
Actually, I'm
Are
not.
there thoughts like that you can recognize, like sort of affirmation loops that people catch themselves in when they feel that way?
Totally. So powerlessness is often just like the narrative or the loop is like, I have no choice. I have
Mhm.
no choice. I have
Mhm.
no choice or no say in the matter. This is
Wow.
being done to me. This is being done to me. This is being done to me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I it's very challenging to get someone who's in a state of powerlessness or depression and
Mhm.
expect them to rise all the way up to the top of the scale and
Right.
immediately shift into frequencies like love, gratitude, appreciation,
Mhm.
joy, bliss, ecstasy, right? Those are at the top of the scale.
Mhm.
And so, in order to kinda, like, climb up what I call the manifestation ladder,
Mhm.
right? It's like one rung at a time. So, if someone's experiencing powerlessness, right, can I get them to feeling, even just get up the scale to a frequency of hope,
Right.
right? Even just hope, right?
That's such a good like, it's just a crumb, hope is just a crumb, but it really is like a chain reaction to raising your vibration.
Totally. And oftentimes it's a matter of choice. Like what I find is when a person is on the frequency of powerlessness, it really literally is an archetype that feels like I have no choice or no say in the way my life plays out. I
Mhm.
have no choice or no say as far as what is done to me. Okay. And then that puts that person in the victim seat. Right, and a
Mhm.
person who's in that victim seat is seeing the world through the lens of, "Why is this happening to me?" versus, "Why is this happening for me?"
Right, and we're not talking about, victimhood in terms of, crazy unforeseen circumstance like rape or, near death experiences, like that kind of trauma,
Yeah.
because it is part of the human experience to have trauma that happens to us in life and to work through that. And, we're not saying that obviously. There's being a victim, like there's certain scales.
Right, and that I think that's an important point, like, if you're
Mhm.
driving and God forbid somebody, like, nicks your car, right? Like, you're
Right.
okay, like, you're physically okay, but someone just nicked your car, right?
Right.
There's 2 types of people who would handle it in 2 different ways.
Right,
Okay,
right,
one
right.
person is gonna, like, curse out the world.
Right.
Right, and the next person is like, "Okay, thank God I'm okay. Thank God my family's okay," it's
Yeah,
just a car.
absolutely.
So a lot of it has to do with perception,
Mhm.
and the more we start to work with, like, this experience of powerlessness and instilling in these people that they have a choice. That
Yes.
you have a choice in the matter. You get to choose. You are a sovereign being with an inner authority that gets to dictate what the next step in your life is gonna look like, how you're gonna respond, how you're gonna react, right? And
Yeah.
you start working that muscle, little by
Mhm.
little, you'll start to climb up the frequency scale and start living at a frequency of hope, and once you're even a little bit hopeful and that becomes your status quo, then you can start rising up to frequencies like gratitude.
Yeah. And it really is also to just taking your power back, the opportunity of going through extreme challenges in life, even small challenges. There's always all like life always gives us an opportunity to take our power back and move forward with like with so many more lessons embodied.
Yeah, yep. I mean, I'll tell you, when we were living in Israel a couple years ago, it was the holiday of Purim, and my husband and I were out with the kids, and the day was done, and we drove our car back, parked our car, on the street. And the next morning, I woke up to go to a yoga class, which I usually drive to, and I'm walking up and down the street, and I don't see my car. And I call my husband and I was like, "Okay, am I going nuts? Do you remember us parking somewhere else outside of where I remember us parking?" And he's like, "No, Ayala, we 100% parked in that spot. You're right. You're not crazy." He's like, "Just keep walking up and down the street." So I'm like a mad woman. I'm walking up and
Yeah.
down the street like 5 times.
Yeah.
I think I have like amnesia.
Right.
The car was gone. It was stolen.
You're
Like
like, babe, the car is not here.
the car is not here. It was robbed. Okay. And
Whoa.
mhm. And I remember just feeling that first, like, punch in the stomach of, like, feeling violated, right? My kids' car seats weren't in there, my favorite yoga mat, a basketball that I bought my husband for one of his birthdays, right? Like, there were
Yeah.
just sentimental things in the car, and the whole experience just felt very violating. And I remember, like, at first feeling a lot of, like, anger towards the person who did this. And then once I let myself feel that anger, because that's a very real and raw emotion. So we're not talking here about spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
right? We're not here to say, okay, you know what? This is for the good. God had someone steal my car, so clearly this is for the good. No,
Or
there's
even like negative emotions are bad. Like negative emotions will attract bad things to you.
right. So what I did initially was I because I've programmed myself to just see everything is good,
Mhm.
right? I found myself in this situation where I'm like, okay, you know what? God was just trying to protect my family from, God forbid, something that could have gone way worse. Right, and then so this was, but as the day was going on and then the next day came, and I'm still feeling, like, a lot of discomfort in my system, like, I'm still
Mhm.
feeling like I got punched in the stomach,
Mhm.
and I realized what I was doing was I was spiritual bypassing. When
Wow.
and once I acknowledged that, what I did was I let myself feel the anger, I let
Like
my
you kept being like, "No, like keep the vibe high," kind of a thing, or just like forgive this person for stealing the car even when you weren't emotionally ready to.
exactly, and that's the
Mhm.
key, was I was not emotionally ready to, but I
Mhm.
didn't wanna sit in the anger because that was
Right.
uncomfortable, but if we
Right.
don't allow ourselves, and this is part of this methodology, right? So what we need to be doing is actually sitting with the real and raw emotions that we're experiencing, because the more we let ourselves actually feel it, studies show that if we focus with all of our intense intention on
Mhm.
any emotion for just a few seconds, it's a matter of seconds before that emotion, because emotion is energy in motion and it
Right.
just wants to move and shapeshift. It's a matter of seconds before that emotion transmutes into something different, something lighter, something
Mhm.
fluffier, right? So by sitting through what's real, for me in that case, it would have been the anger and the resentment. I think I really let myself, like, have a good cry, like, let out a good cry and feel the anger towards them, and within a matter of, like, 25 minutes or something, I was totally cleared from it, and then I was able to step into the higher frequency emotions, like gratitude.
Mhm. Mhm.
Thank you, God, for having someone to steal my car, because I know that I know that I know you were protecting us from something. I might not
Yeah.
know what that is from my little human brain and my little
Mhm.
human perspective, but if I can zoom out and be in what Kabbalah calls moachin de gadlut, like
Mhm.
expanded consciousness versus constricted consciousness,
Right.
then I'm actually able to, like, enter God's mind in a way and see things from a more godly perspective. And from that perspective, everything is good. And so when we remember that, we're able to kind of just ride up the vibrational frequency scale
Mhm.
and sit in that, like, God consciousness.
I really also love how you talk about emotion as energy in motion because, there's also such a fine line between really going into your emotions and feeling your feelings and then sitting in your feelings, which, sometimes we can sit in our feelings for years. It could last anywhere between an hour to years. And it's a really good, that's, I think, is, also like a huge way to discern whether you're in victim mentality or you are actually really elevating yourself is by seeing where you're at, like really doing, like cheshbon nefesh, doing a soul check
Mhm.
and seeing where am I holding on to emotions just to hold on to resentment or make a story for myself to limit myself to keep me back from living to my full potential or even just like forgiveness, like where am I denying myself being able to love someone unconditionally or love myself unconditionally by holding on to this. And then also, but it takes, practice and time, which is also what the manifestation method is about. It's like a holistic way to live life and like
Mhm.
tools that are so transformative on every level. Just even things like learning not to bypass, but learning also not to sit in your feelings. It's so crucial.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that we're starting this episode talking about frequency,
Hmm.
because even though there are steps to manifesting, whenever I take a group through my one of my online courses, I take them through all the steps, but the first before we even access the steps, we're talking about frequency,
Right.
because your frequency literally lays the foundation upon which your manifestation can build and grow. And if
Yes.
the frequency is not there, then your vessel, right, your kli in Kabbalistic terms, right, your vessel, if it's not expanded enough to hold your vision, then you might be manifesting something that your actual vessel, like your being, cannot contain. And
Mhm.
we see this a lot in what's called the curse of the lottery,
Oh,
where, right, it's like studies show that a person who has not actually worked on their money frequency, on their money cognitions,
right.
if they come from, let's say,
Doesn't matter what background,
what
really.
background?
Like, it really doesn't matter what background. It could be you could be coming from living in poverty to comfortable middle class to upper class, like whatever it is. It really is like also too because money is so related to how it's so reflective of how we live in general. It's reflective of how we relate to love and relationships, friendships. Like it's really just it's a tough subject for people and it feels so exposing because it really exposes more than just how you deal with finances and money, right?
Right. And that's kind of what we're doing here with this methodology is like we're here to empower you, to
Mhm.
get you to a place where you actually can learn the tools to expand your vessel. So, this is not me putting a mirror in front of your face to kind of show you like, look what you're not. No, it's me showing you like, look what you can be and look what you already are. And
Absolutely.
let's get you back to your nature of who you truly are. But real quick, back to
The
the
curse
curse
of the
of the
lottery.
lottery. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we can go on tangents. But
Totally.
research shows that people, if their energetic vessel is not
Mhm.
equipped to hold the level of abundance that amount of money will will bring them, then
Yeah.
they'll actually end up within a year of winning the lottery in more debt than they were before they won the lottery.
Ooh.
And that's all about like if you go to if you're like lost in the desert somewhere and you are searching for water and you need water, right? Water is a form of abundance when you're lost in the desert.
Mhm.
And you are constantly manifesting water in your mind. You're like, I'm going to manifest water. The water is coming. I know the water is coming. The water is mine. I allow and I am open to receiving the water, right? You just do all the manifestation
Mhm.
work while you're in the desert to stumble upon water. Okay, fine. You stumble upon a little pond. And
Mhm.
wow, wow, yay, I got my water manifested. But hold on, you don't have a cup or any vessel on you to hold the water.
Right.
So what good is the water if you don't have a vessel to hold the water?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? So this whole methodology starts with first building a foundation, a frequency foundation, I call it, so that your vision can sit and be sustained long term.
Right.
Okay? And then I'd say like the first like after you've worked on your frequency, then the first like actionable step is putting pen to paper. Like ask for what you want. Get
Mhm.
clear about what it is you want.
Mhm.
So many times clients come to me and they're just like, Ayala, I want to be rich. I want to be financially abundant. I want financial freedom. Okay, so I'll ask them, all right, what does that look like? Define financial freedom because for one person, financial freedom could be like $100,000 a year. For the next person, it could be $5 million a year, right?
Right.
So what is, and they turn like rosy pink in the cheeks. They don't know how to define what it is that they actually want in clear terms.
Right, because a feeling too is a feeling and is so, sometimes it's like we get these, like, waves of feelings, and then, like, when we have to describe them, it's like, "Oh, wait, actually, how what does that even look like to me?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I always say, if you imagine like two captains, each on their own ship,
Mhm.
and one has a blueprint of where they're headed. Okay. And the other one is like, I'm just going to go wherever the wind takes me. I think it goes without saying that the one without the blueprint can end up shipwrecked off the coast of an island somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas the one with an actual map and a compass of where they're going
Mhm.
is gonna end up safely at their destination, right?
Yeah.
It's and a lot of studies, like Harvard has done these studies where they took college graduates before they graduated, and they did half the group wrote down clearly where they saw themselves in 10 years, and the other half of the group wrote nothing down, okay? And then 10 years later, they reached out to the people who were in the study, and it was like 90 something percent of the people who wrote it down ended
Mhm.
up manifesting where they saw themselves, whereas the other half that didn't write anything down they had nothing to show in terms of they were kind of just working like their typical jobs.
Right.
So,
So, and then what is the third step?
hmm. So I'd say like creating a foundational frequency we said is kind of like the prerequisite, and then we get into the actual steps. So like I would call
So
the
the last two things that we talked about was more foundational work.
the frequency is more foundational work, right?
Yeah.
Setting the stage so that you can, play out your life on that stage.
Mhm.
Now that you're on that stage, ask, get clear. What is it I want? Write it down.
Right,
Okay.
and that it goes hand in hand too because working on your frequency, it's really like a check of seeing where you are, and then writing things down is saying, "Okay, this is where I'm at, and now I'm ready." I'm you can't know where you're gonna go without knowing where you're at.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. Or if you're trying to manifest a soulmate, okay, what does that feel like to be with your soulmate? Write it down. It's less about what they look like or
Absolutely.
less about the specifics, how tall they are. I mean, if you have non-negotiables, that's totally fine. Right?
Mhm.
Be careful with non-negotiables because I get people who come with a list of 500 non-negotiables, and then I
Right.
stop and I'm like,
It can turn into a block.
it can definitely turn into a block.
Yeah.
So I'm more focused on the energetics here because manifestation is all about tuning in to all the energy fields, all the energetic realms, because that's when you become a real wizard or a real shaman or a neo
Mhm.
shaman, right?
Right.
You start playing with matter and you start materializing things. So if you're trying to manifest your soulmate, get clear. What does it feel like to be with this person? Tap
Mhm.
more into like the energy of what it's like to be with them and what they feel like to you versus like he wears glasses and is a redhead and has freckles. Right.
Right. Because also too, when you're in that situation, when you're dating, there can be so many blocks. Like, okay, you might be dating a redhead with freckles, but it might be such a like an illusion because the person might not have the same values as you. They might not have very good values at all. And it, could turn into a situation where you're trying to force something to work based on something that's more superficial versus like, why do you want the redhead with freckles? What does redhead with freckles actually represent?
Exactly. Exactly. Why is it that you want what you want, right? If you want someone wealthy, why do I want someone wealthy? What does that represent for me? Is it safety? Does it represent? Then feel into the safety, like feel into what that money can afford you. Right?
Yeah.
And that's key when it comes to getting clear about what you want. Step 2, believe. Believe that anything is possible. I can't tell you how important this step is. This comes down to faith.
Do
This
you believe in miracles?
Do you believe in miracles? And so what I often do is like I work with people in shifting their frequency. So, on the bottom of this ladder might be the frequency of doubt. Like I completely doubt that I'm going to manifest my husband in the next 21 days. It's just not
Mm.
in the cards for me, right? That would look like
Mhm.
doubt. Right? Then I move them up to hope. Right? Hope starts to feel like, okay, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, I don't know, but I'm open. At least there's an openness there.
Mhm.
Right? Then we move them up the ladder to the frequency of expectation. Like I
Mhm.
expect miracles. And then we move them up the ladder to I know that I know that I know I'm manifesting my husband in the next 21 days.
Right.
Okay. And like shifting to that place of knowing, that's what it looks like to have unparalleled faith, like unbreakable faith. And that's what a quantum leap looks like because I don't know about you or if you're if you're listening, but I can speak for myself that based on my history and how I grew up and some of my life experiences, like all the cards are up against me when it comes to me having faith, right? Like
Mhm.
based on my life experiences, I should be in doubt,
Right.
should be in fear.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
had to actually work on taking myself through a quantum leap. And a quantum
Mhm.
leap only happens when you do feel and think things that are radically different from your old ways of being. So when it came time for me to manifest my husband, which, thank you, universe, I manifested him in 21 days, right? I chose Again, remember choice here. Belief and faith come down to choosing.
Absolutely.
You're not always going to have the empirical evidence to build
Mhm.
up your faith, but the more you do this work, it starts to build up empirical evidence in little
Mhm.
ways. You start
Mhm.
to think of a book that you want to manifest, and then it
Right.
appears on your front door randomly, right? Like, or a friend gives you the book,
That
so
happened to me, you guys, by the way, this week. That was an example of a real life experience.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me numerous times where I'll think of a book and walk down the street and it'll be like there on the sidewalk up for grabs,
Right,
right?
right.
It's a little literal real thing. And the more we work on this manifestation muscle,
Mhm.
and we start doing this work on things that are like low resistance manifestations, like
Mhm.
a book, right? A,
Yeah.
a husband might have bigger resistance around it or more doubt around it, but start working this magic, your belief muscle, your faith muscle on little things, minor things. And the more you start to see, like, oh, I was thinking of a hummingbird, and then an hour later, a hummingbird appeared on a sticker on someone's computer, right?
Mhm.
It can come in all different forms. So I also
Right.
encourage people to be open to all the different ways that their manifestation could appear. But when it
It
comes,
definitely doesn't come the way that you think. It comes better than you could even dream of, for
that's for
sure.
sure. That's for sure.
Mhm.
And I can vouch for that in the way that my husband manifested, which we talk about in another episode,
Right.
how Beryl manifested into my life.
Mhm.
But I chose to take a quantum leap and start behaving in a way that was so radically opposite to my old ways of being. So I shifted from an internal world of chaos and doubt and disbelief into one where I was not even willing to entertain an iota of doubt that looked anything different than what it was I was manifesting
Mhm.
within the next few months. Okay. And so the belief piece is like believing in yourself, but then also believing that anything is possible. Like anything is possible. And once you work this belief muscle, you start to see your life turn into just magic.
And also belief, it's an extension of trust, and when you work on your frequency to raise that vibration, a real benefit of that is rebuilding trust in yourself and rebuilding trust in God or your higher power or the universe, however you want to say it. And that is so fundamental too, to just letting go and letting it happen. When you're manifestation doesn't happen, or it isn't realized when we're holding on with an iron grip. We really have to let go and let God bring it to us in a way that is so fun and wild and going to make for like a great story, like to tell to your grandkids or whatever down the road.
Totally, totally. And
Mhm.
and I love that because that segues into step 3, which is all about receiving. Turn
Mhm.
yourself into a vessel that is capable of receiving. You can't manifest with an iron grip. You can't manifest when your inner space, your energy body is in constriction, is in control. And that's what receiving is all about. Receiving is about turning yourself into an allower of what it is that you want. Allow your manifestation to come in, right? If someone is like knocking at your door trying to give you a gift and you're not available to open the door, you're never going to receive the gift that is there waiting for you. The fact that you have an intention, the fact that you have a desire is your soul's way of speaking directly to source, saying, this is something that I desire to carve out in my life that is meant for my actualization of self to a degree, right? And but if we're not open to receiving it and we don't allow it in, then we're never going to receive the gift that is fundamentally ours. And like I said, if you already are desiring it, that means some version of you out there in the future already has what it is that you want. Now it's a matter of calling it in. And the way we call it in is to get into the surrender seat, right?
And there's so many misconceptions about surrender, Ayala. Can you talk about specifically what surrender means with the manifestation method?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people think that surrender is just giving up or
Or
indifferent
not doing anything?
or not doing anything. Well, if I'm surrendered, then why should I have to manifest anything in the first place?
Mhm.
And surrender, according to this methodology, is not about not doing anything. It's not about giving it up. Surrender is about giving it over. Okay, giving it over to a higher power of your own understanding, giving
Mhm.
it over, saying, you know what? I don't know how all of this is going to happen. I don't know how or when it's going to manifest by. But what I do know is what it is that I'm clear about that I'm calling in.
Mhm.
And I do know that I have a choice in the matter. And I do know that I believe in infinite possibility. And I do know that God is infinite possibility and can manifest anything if I put my mind to it. Then we're co creating. Now I'm dancing with the divine. Like, that's awesome.
Which
Right?
makes life way more fun, I tell you what.
Makes life way more fun.
Yeah.
But receiving is really about giving up the how and the when.
Mhm.
Right? That's not our job. Let God show up and surprise you in an epic way.
So
Okay.
if you're in this phase of your manifestation process and you catch yourself sitting in the car in traffic and you're frustrated with life and you're thinking, how and when is this going to show up? Like, how am I going to, meet my soulmate? Like, when is it going to happen? And, I'm this X amount years old and I need to make it happen now. Or I need to force myself to go on more dates or try a new app, etc. What would you say to people who have that? Like, as first of all, it's a key word when you say, even when you catch yourself thinking how or when, or even I have to figure it out, like being like, I need to force this to make this work. What are some tools that we can offer our listeners?
So for me, it's really as simple as repeating the mantra, I give it over to God. I give it over to God. Like, it's really that simple because the hard part is even recognizing that the sabotaging thoughts are coming through the portal, right? How and when. Or if I'm stuck in traffic, right? I can either get into that victim consciousness that we spoke about earlier, like, why
Mhm.
me? Why is this happening to me? I'm going to be late for my meeting. Or I can plug into the manifestation methodology and recognize that time is a construct and it is malleable, and I can transcend time and space, and I can literally play with time from this new level of consciousness, because from this place I acknowledge that time is just a construct and it's like Play-Doh in my hand. And I do this all the time when I'm running late to meetings, right? I start to play with time as a malleable construct. But that's a conversation for another day. Like,
Yeah, that's in our quantum leaping time jumping episode.
right, we're gonna dive deep after we get through like these fundamental episodes. But
Mhm.
when I'm sitting there in traffic and I am just starting on my journey with manifestation, right? Or even if you're evolved in manifestation, because we all need this as a reminder. Like, I'll sit there and I'll say, like, this traffic is out of my control. So I can either embrace it or resist it.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I realize I have a choice. If you realize and you catch the thought, the negative thought, like, why me?
Mhm.
Then you're already winning. I always say, if you catch the thought and you bring it to the forefront of your awareness, now I'm aware of the sabotaging thoughts, then you're already winning. Because it's
Right.
from that place of awareness that now you're met at a choice point and you get to choose. Am I going to stay victim?
Mhm.
Or am I gonna embrace it and maybe put on my favorite podcast or put on some music and start dancing to the
Yes.
music and shift my frequency and play with what life is presenting to you? Like,
Mhm.
the suffering only happens when you resist what is, right?
Right.
Suffering only happens when you resist what is, and what is gonna happen regardless. Rain is gonna
Mhm.
happen on your wedding day. It's gonna
Right.
rain on your wedding day if it's meant to rain on your wedding day. So resisting that and being so frustrated that it's raining is just causing more constriction in your system, and it's
Mhm.
gonna manifest as more unfortunate circumstances
Right.
because that's the frequency you're emitting out into
Or
the
you're only gonna see bad, if you, like, decide, oh, like, to look like looking for the bad in people or looking for the bad in a situation. Also too, we're so addicted to being in a low frequency a lot of the time because it's also something that's normalized. It's normalized in our culture to complain about stuff. It might be normalized in our family systems to complain or to look for the bad or to have a really critical parent. And so your inner critic, the volume is up way, way loud most of your life. And it takes a lot of time and effort to change how we think and how we talk to ourselves. And it really is simple practice. Like if you want to, get a six pack, you have to go to the gym, 5 days a week and work hard to get that. And it's like doing the same exercises over and over again. It's the same thing, training your brain is, doing things like affirmations, catching yourself when you're in a low frequency and pulling yourself out of it. And I wish we could say that it's more glamorous than that, or there's a one-stop shop to change yourself radically. But making quantum leaps and getting to that level is baby steps every single day and committing to the work and showing up for yourself.
Yes, and while it is work and it
Mhm.
requires a discipline like anything else that brings success, what I love about this particular methodology is that we teach here actual techniques to accelerate processes. So
Right.
while someone's sitting here thinking, "Well, Ayala, like you've been working on yourself for 2 decades. I don't have 2 decades to be working on myself to get there," you know? And
Mhm.
what I'd say is like this is why I've created this platform. Like this is why it's a methodology is because if you really follow the steps and you tune into how to accelerate these processes, for example, like I'll give you one of the hacks that I talk about in my course. Right? Someone like you mentioned, if you're trying to get a six pack, you have to go to the gym 5 days a week. Okay, now is that true? Like, do you have to go to the gym 5 days a week to get a six pack? I would say you have to put in the time and the energy and the discipline
Mhm.
to see results in any area. But do you have to work as hard as you've been previously conditioned to think you have to work?
Right, do you have to overwork? No, no
You don't have to
overworking.
overwork, and not only that, it's you don't have to overwork, and also, you get to train your consciousness in such a way that studies show you wanna get a six-pack? Okay, while you're lifting those weights at the gym, actually take your focus and bring it. Attach your focus to the muscle that you're working on, and during those reps, while you're working those muscles, literally visualize those muscles working.
Mhm.
Literally visualize those muscle fibers tearing,
A
see the
glowing, engaged core.
a glowing, engaged core, right?
Yeah.
Studies show that by doing this, because where your thoughts go, energy flows, right? That's a
Mhm.
manifestation principle. Where your thoughts
Mhm.
go, energy flows. If I'm working out and I'm just thinking to myself, "Oh, I'm never gonna get a six pack. When am I ever gonna have my dream body?" Right?
Yeah,
It's then you can expect it to take a lot of time. But
absolutely.
if you're exercising and you are hyper focusing your attention on that specific muscle that you're working, you can accelerate the amount of time it takes to get your dream body by like 3 times faster.
Totally. All about that visualization and belief.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, so let's review. So there's basically 2 parts to this process. The first part is a self frequency assessment, essentially, and working on your frequency. And then a second part is writing down and connecting to what you want to manifest and realize in your life.
Right, and then we spoke about believing in the power of manifestation, believing
Mhm.
in yourself,
Mhm.
and which really also the belief part requires going into a lot of, like, your childhood experiences and understanding where a lot of your beliefs even came from, because that's when you
Mhm.
get to actually do some regression work and go
It's your
back.
literal it's beyond just believing in your manifestation, it's also assessing your beliefs and rewiring your beliefs.
100%, and that's what this step comes down to is actually doing the rewiring process.
Mhm.
And then we spoke about a step called receive. Turn yourself into a vessel to receive that abundance, right? Which is focusing on what it is you want and why you want it and letting go of the how and the when. Okay. Like really surrendering to the process. And we spoke that surrender is not a giving up, but it's a giving it over. Setting your intention, getting clear, and then totally letting go of the outcome.
Mhm.
And you'll see when you totally let go of the outcome, the results that end up manifesting happen way more quickly and in a much more grand way than you ever imagined. Right. And then the fourth step, and I mean, there's so many different processes that I take people through in this methodology, but we're just talking about the fundamentals here. So
Mhm.
the final step in just getting you started is acknowledge. Acknowledge, having an attitude of gratitude, acknowledging where the source of your manifestations are coming from all the time. I see this happen a lot. People start working with me and they're like, I yell it, you're not going to believe it. I manifested this and this and this and this and this. Like, I'm so powerful. And I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Yes, you are powerful because you are, made in the image of God and you are divine and you are sovereign. So, yes, we are all powerful. But spiritual ego can come in here when we start doing this work because we start to say, like, abracadabra, look, I spoke and it manifested, and look how awesome I am. It's really important here in this
It's
final.
a fine line of being empowered and then thinking you're God.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
thinking you're all powerful.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And so I always say, you are not the one manifesting. You are the one getting out of God's way so that God can, wave its paintbrush
Yeah.
and design a life that is so unbelievably aligned with your intention, right? But your job is getting out of the way. It's getting clear. It's believing in yourself. It's believing in a higher power. It's opening yourself up to receiving and then saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, God of the cosmos, for having a relationship with me and actually giving me what it is that I asked for. And the more, because what we appreciate appreciates,
Mm.
right? What we appreciate appreciates. And the more you appreciate what it is you already have, the more the universe is going to be like, oh, you're in a frequency of appreciation. Let me give you more.
It's expanding your vessel. Like staying in a frequency for a long period of time. When we say we're talking about, in Kabbalistic concepts, like becoming a vessel to receive the light, like the light of God, like that can also seem so abstract. But literally what we're talking about is when you can stretch, starting changing your frequency. It might be you're feeling in a very low place. You might be feeling a lot of anxiety, sadness, frustration, or thinking, everything always happens for other people and it doesn't happen for me, or I can't make my dreams happen because of X, Y, and Z. Like even just for 10 minutes of your day, just really writing things that you're grateful for, or going out of your way to help another person and really feeling it from your heart. Like that's the tools that we're talking about. And when you can start extending that time from feeling positive and happy and grateful. Like grateful also too is such a fast track to raising your frequency because it gives you some perspective. That is the literal expanding of your vessel, is training yourself to start being in that vibration of gratitude, and that welcomes in so many other positive high vibe emotions and frequencies in your life. And that, like, you can start realizing like, wow, my vessel is really starting to expand and I'm welcoming like amazing things into my life, and it's because I literally am creating a vessel of love and gratitude.
Absolutely. And I see it even, if the ultimate creator is a macrocosm for this like micro reality we're living here on planet Earth, then we get to see these parallels a lot, or I get to witness them in parenting. Right? Because I have young kids, and I get to see these manifestation principles play out in dynamics within my own home. So if my, 5-year-old is like, Ima, he calls me Ima. He's like, Ima, you owe me a hot cocoa. Right? I'm gonna be like, okay, so get your tushy to work, make some
Yeah.
money, and go buy all of Hershey's for all I care.
Yeah.
But it's not coming from this source of wellspring of infinite abundance, right?
Right.
But if my son is like, Ima, I really appreciate everything you do for me, and I really appreciate everything I already have. So thank
Mhm.
you. And I would love a hot cocoa. I'm gonna be like, all right, let's go to Hershey's amusement park
Yeah.
and
Right. You and a hot cocoa. Yeah.
and a hot cocoa. Like have whatever you want, right? And
Yeah.
so these dynamics are really replicable. And we see them play out in our everyday to day lives. And so if we tune in and we ask ourselves, like, how am I interacting with my life as it is right now? How am I appreciating or not appreciating or complaining about the life I have? And when we
Mhm.
start to get really honest with the narratives that are going on inside of our own minds, then we get to start shape shifting them and choosing better feeling thoughts, choosing better feeling emotions, and then turning ourselves into vibrational frequencies that are attuned and aligned with the level of the abundance that we're looking to call in.
And it's a process too. I think when we start the manifestation process, a lot of us are thinking, oh, I want to manifest my partner. I want to manifest, my dream career. I want to manifest financial freedom. And then when you get those things, it's like, awesome. now what do I do? And what's really beautiful about manifestation is it's a lifelong process.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there you have it. You have the fundamentals to manifestation to get you started. There is a lot of juice here. So you could literally spend the next year just going through the ask, believe, receive, acknowledge methodology. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper and have me kind of hold your hand and be your cheerleader through your process of embodying these principles and the methodology, then go ahead and head on over to ayeletpolonsky.com. There's a whole list of courses there that you can just buffet from. And thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode served you and gave you little nuggets of wisdom to get you started on your manifestation path. I love you, and here's to your rising. Thank you for joining me on the manifestation method. I hope today's episode has inspired you on your journey to authenticity and abundance. Remember, your transformation begins with your mindset. If you're ready to take the next step, visit ayeletpolonsky.com for more resources and guidance. Until next time, here's to your rising.